Started. I think this is the first ever meeting with a son and or a father and daughter. So we have a special family participation today in the Martin family. But so I'm Ashley McClure. I'm a primary care internist. I live in Berkeley, but I'm from Seattle, which is actually where I'm joining you all from right now, is in Orcas Island. But this is our April Climate Health Now community meeting, and we're really excited. We have a lot of wonderful colleagues who are going to participate in kind of bringing together a collective to share different perspectives. So this will be a lot of different voices coming in to share the same message. And really the theme of this month's meeting is how to effectively speak in public as health professionals in California to recruit more health professionals to join us in advocating for climate action in order to protect health. I think most of us have lots of experience with CME, but this is a little different because we're not just trying to share information, we're trying to invite colleagues to join us in taking action together. And that's what's different about how we're trying to frame how we speak as, climate activated health professionals on climate. So really excited for today. So we're going to start with our mission to always reorient around our North Star. So Climate Health Now, our mission is that we are a group of doctors, nurses, and health professionals in California who recognize climate change as the public health and equity emergency of our lifetimes, which is why we spend all of our extra hours organizing and mobilizing the trusted voice of health professionals to advocate for a rapid, just transition off harmful fossil fuels towards a healthy, equitable society sustained by renewable energy. So that's the foundation of what we're doing. And this is a surprising, okay, let me get this out of the way. There we go. So, because I recently watched this awesome documentary about the Highlander Folk School, and they did a lot of civil rights community organizing teaching at this school, and I was struck by how moving the music was and how it just really helped you feel that community and what they were working on together. So it made me reach out to T. Martin, who has shared some of her awesome music with us in the past, to share a song. So we're going to start by a song, and if everybody could mute yourself, and I warmly invite you to sing with your audio off because it doesn't work on Zoom to sing together. So welcome, T. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm so glad to be here. And I actually didn't even know my dad was going to be on the call. Hi, Dad. This song is One Foot in Front of the Other by Melanie Damore, and I'll sing it for you. And there's a part that you can join in on that I'll motion for you to join in if you want to. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Try that with me if you want to. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And this part can happen as a call and response if you want to join me. Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. You're not alone. Don't you despair. Don't you despair. Keep moving on. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Lift up your eyes, lift up your eyes. Look up ahead, look up ahead. Don't you despair, don't you despair. The path is there, the path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. I know you're scared. I know you're scared. And I'm scared too. And I'm scared too. But here I am. But here I am. Right next to you. Right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead. Last time. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And lead with love. And lead with love.
Woohoo!
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, T, for helping us get out of our heads for a second. Thank you. That song is, I sing that with my daughter now. That's great. A song to sing that message right there. So the overview of our hour together, and thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time and your joining. So again, the theme is effective public speaking for recruiting more health professionals to join us in advocating for climate action. So we'll talk about something called the public narrative framework, which is something I learned from Marshall Gans, a living legend of a community organizer. And we'll hear from Dr. Angelina Kranz-Yoon about the story of self, so what calls us to action, the story of us, which Dr. Javier Sanchez will talk about in the context of his amazing work on advocating for folks to get vaccinated for COVID, and how we've done it for COVID, and that messaging around how to keep each other safe, and now we need to pivot to climate. And then we'll finish with Dr. Jerry Abraham on the story of now, which is when we call our colleagues to join us in taking action together. So we'll hear the pieces of that from our three colleagues. And then Dr. Jeff Mann will talk about just kind of how to pitch giving grand rounds, because that's not something that maybe everybody's done, but we would like to support everybody doing that to recruit more health professionals. And we'll talk about our listening campaign and some great Vote ER work that colleagues are doing, and we'll close out. So thank you to Margie for keeping time. Angelina, would you mind keeping an eye on the chat to bring up any important conversation pieces you think?
I might have to leave early because I have patients at 1. So
okay. Well, if you could do the beginning, and maybe
I can
Amanda.
take over after that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Angela.
And these are our CHN norms, kind of the ways we want to create our culture and community. And for today, I'm going to especially bring in the humor part to, because this is the lighter side. We're not talking just the science of it, but the heart and the meaning of why we're doing this work. So, okay, so if we have any new members, if this is your first community meeting that you've ever joined, we would love you to come off mute and introduce yourself, say your name, what you practice, and where you live.
I'm new. I'm Roger Hicks. I'm a physician. I have an urgent care clinic in Grass Valley, right in the center of the Tinderbox. I've organized town halls here in Nevada City and Grass Valley for a number of years on health effects of climate change. And right now I'm organizing a general session for the National Urgent Care Convention, which is going to be taking place on March, the first few days of May.
Awesome. Cool. That's great. We're really glad you're here. We'd love to be more connected. Anybody else? First meeting?
Yeah, hi. C. Freeman, geriatric psychiatrist, private practice, Los Angeles.
Yay! We're glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
A little accolades. I have so much admiration. Dr. Freeman ran for CMA president-elect last year, and we're with you next time. But thank you for joining. And Emily?
Hey everyone, I'm Emily. I'm an emergency medicine physician out in San Diego, and I'm a National Physician Fellow in Climate and Health Medicine with the University of Colorado. Thanks to Amanda for letting me know about this meeting today. I had no idea what was going on, so super happy to be with you guys and hear about all the awesome work you're doing.
Cool. Great.
Thanks
This will
for
hopefully
joining,
this can be.
Emily.
Hey,
Yeah.
Emily, if I could just jump in here. Two of my panelists, one is Jay Emery, and the other is Cecilia Sorensen.
Oh yeah, my climate fellowship, directors.
Right, and the first fellow. Cecilia was the first
Yes.
fellow.
She
Cool.
is amazing.
Yeah, maybe we can have you speak about that next, like in a future meeting. Maybe was it Helen?
Yes, hi, I'm Helen Yenny Kamshian. I'm a psychiatrist in private practice in Palo Alto. And I'm actually giving a little talk this evening to a group of psychiatrists that I'm a part of, like a journal club about climate despair. And in the process of preparing for that, I came across your organization. And so here I am at this meeting. I do have a patient at 1, so I can't stay for the whole time today, but I'm glad to be here.
Woohoo! Yeah, glad to have you. Another sister organization is the Climate Psychiatry Alliance that does amazing work. And there's a lot of, great overlap and synergy, but another group to know about. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else is your first meeting?
Mine. I'm new. My name's Ilana. I'm an acupuncturist in San Francisco. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm excited to be here. I'm excited about today's topic.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining. We need help getting into the acupuncture and more naturopathic side. So glad you're here.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. Great. Well, welcome. And we have these committee meetings once a month. Our next one is May 18th. So bring all your friends. Okay, so just focusing on the topic for today. So I like this graphic because it kind of illustrates community organizing in a lot of ways. So many of you know, I took a life-changing class with Marshall Gans, who worked with the farm workers and civil rights leaders in the 60s. And his framework is, the head is kind of the strategy behind what we do and how we help our colleagues in our communities to make a good plan to make change, social change from the bottom up. So that's, a different conversation. But today's conversation is really about the heart and the meaning of why we're doing this work. And it's getting towards the values that are at stake and how we tap into those values in order to bring them together in the hands where we take action together. So, the climate scientists of the world, thank you. They have done an amazing job with the heart and with the head and the science and, what we need to do to slow down and stop warming. But the messaging we all kind of know has really fallen short of what it needs to build the will for the action we must take. So together, we're practicing really the effective messaging where it doesn't just bounce off the intellect of people, but it sinks in a meaningful way that calls them to join us. So this quote, that public narrative is a leadership art through which we translate values into action by engaging our heart and the emotional aspect of this and, what's at stake if we don't take action together, in addition to the head and the heart, the hands. And then one other visual way to kind of frame why we're focusing on this is, again, the strategy is kind of how we make social change and how we as health professionals in California can catalyze climate action. But the narrative is the why, and it's the pathos and the motivation and the emotional aspect of it. So that's where narrative comes in as a leadership practice, where we get to that place where we can motivate people to make change together. So I'm going to pass it to Dr. Kranz-Yoon to start with the story of self and what calls us to leadership.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angelique Franzune. I'm an allergist in Davis, and I was part of the Catalyst Collective in the fall, where we went through some of Marshall Ganz's teachings. And so the story of self is basically sharing yourself to and your experiences, so your collective wisdom of your life experiences to connect these issues to emotions. And so to have that connection on a personal level with the people you are trying to activate or you're trying to lead. And so when you're framing your story, because it's easy to say, hey, I'm an allergist and I'm a doctor and I care about climate, but it's like, but why? What happened in your life to, make you care about this, and why should other people care about this as well? And so you really should focus on a challenge in your life that led you to make a choice and what that outcome was of that choice. And that's really kind of the framework of telling an effective story of self in a very short amount of time. Because a lot of the time when you're trying to convince someone, you only have a few minutes. Maybe you're on a call with state legislator or even a senator, and their staff is very short on bandwidth. So you got to make those connections really quickly, especially in our TikTok world here, where everything's really short snippets. You got to make that connection and grab people to inspire people and motivate them. And so I was going to share my story of self. It has a little bit of us and now in there as well, but it's pretty short. And for the people who've already heard it, I'm sorry. But I think if you can listen and see kind of if you can see the challenge, choice, and outcome. Again, it's not a perfect story, but hopefully it'll give you a flavor of what we're talking about, what we're kind of aiming for. And I have shared this with various groups, and so I'll go ahead and start it. So as an allergist, I am an expert in identifying a patient's triggers of their disease. I recommend avoidance when possible and medications when not. In training, it seemed really clear cut, but after moving to the Central Valley, I noticed a change. I had to recommend more and more medications to control patients' symptoms. Avoidance was nearly impossible as pollen counts were so high and increasing year after year. In the summer of 2020, I was already stressed as a mom of 2 young children dealing with the pandemic, and then the fire started. I remember taking my girls outside in their rain boots to enjoy a rare August thunderstorm, their little squeals of delight a stark contrast to the weeks to follow. Little did we know that was the last time we'd see a blue sky or play outside for over a month. The next day, the smoke started billowing in, our nearby beloved Berryessa Hills progressively turning to ash over the course of 6 weeks. Eventually, the fire would burn an area the size of Los Angeles. That month, I watched the farm workers bring in the harvest under a surreal orange sky. I began instructing my patients on how to construct makeshift air filters out of box fans. I listened to frantic patients gasping on the phone, telling me they couldn't breathe despite taking all their asthma medications correctly. And I realized that the problem was not just the disease, but the environment. And I had to stop the summer of 2020 from being every summer. That's when I found Climate Health Now and began to tell our elected leaders about my patients' stories. So let me tell you about Carla. I first met her when she was 4 years old. She was gasping for air, congested, sneezing, and itching all over. I had to give her an oral steroid medicine, which can stunt her growth multiple times just so she could breathe. She's allergic to everything and needs 6 different medications year-round to control her symptoms. In the past year with video visits, I learned that she lives with her family in a 1-bedroom shack near I-80, the busiest freeway in our area. Her disease is a direct result of her environment, living close to a source of air pollution, high pollen counts due to increased CO2 in the atmosphere, and poor quality housing unable to shelter her from these daily injuries or from the too frequent wildfire smoke. Remember when we applied to medical school? Our personal statements all contain some version of, I want to help people. We went through years of training to recognize and understand disease and their treatments in order to fulfill that sole purpose of helping others through science. We can prescribe the latest treatments, but medication can't cure climate change. For centuries, physicians and healthcare workers have been the champions of public health, advocating for clean water, basic sanitation, vaccines to eradicate smallpox and very nearly polio, and eliminating tobacco smoking from public places. Advocating for a livable planet is the next evolution in our professional journey.
Woohoo! Thank you so much. I love hearing that. And it's really different than like a typical grand rounds. You know, you're bringing yourself in and showing why you, as a person, not just a physician, care. So thank you. So that really well illustrates the story of self. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Javier Sanchez about the story of us and kind of what we as a medical health community did in COVID and how we can pivot that to climate.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure being here with all of you. I've had the opportunity to work with some of you already in health policy here. And I've been very impressed with all the work that you've done. So I want to sort of give you an opportunity, or at least I wanted to share some of our experiences as I got together with a number of our young physicians here in California when COVID hit. So when this started, one of our young physicians here in South Central LA was really frustrated because at that point back in December of 2020, we actually had a vaccine. And as he was trying to convince his patients, his colleagues to get the vaccine, he had a very difficult time to do that. And that was because there was a lot of misinformation that was being passed around. So he reached out to a number of us, actually 4 of us, to really put something together where we can actually begin this process of educating our patients, of fighting misinformation. And this is how This Is Our Shot and Vacunate Ya came about, these 2 hashtags. And this is a digital campaign that has started with 4 of us, and now we have a whole bunch of us working on it. So why did he think that this was something important to do? Well, next slide, please. We kept being told by a number of our colleagues that us, physicians, were the most trusted individuals. So therefore, our patients would listen to us. Our colleagues would listen to us to bring this message across. Next. And the data clearly shows that this is the case. As you can see, healthcare providers, healthcare workers, physicians, and nurses are the most trusted individuals out there to provide education on health education to their patients and to their colleagues. We even better than the CDC, even better than Dr. Fauci. And those 2 folks have had a hard time because there's been a lot of misinformation, a lot of just targeted at them. So we put this program together. Next slide, please. We put this program together, and this was our mission: to elevate the voices of health heroes to build vaccine trust and combat health information. And we wanted to do it in a 4-part series. We wanted to provide growth and recruit other physicians, healthcare workers to participate with us. We wanted to provide some education and some training. We wanted to really get engaged digitally and partner with community partners. And then we wanted to see what the impact of that was. Next. So next slide. So with growth, the first thing we wanted to do is really partner with everyone that wanted to partner with us. So we went out and actually reached out to a number of our organizations out there, as you may provide. And these are just some sample of some of the folks. And people like the American Academy of Family Practice, the CDC, the National Hispanic Medical Association, and other groups, to not only partner with them so they can help us disseminate our message, but also provide us with partners to get more physicians to come and join us so we can educate them. The next thing was the training part. The next, please. And so how can we provide some training for this? Next slide, please. So the first and foremost, we noticed that we needed to educate the trusted messengers, healthcare workers. We needed to make sure that we provide them evidence-based information to make sure they had that information, the latest information, to be able to provide not only to their patients, but also to their colleagues. So we started developing simple messaging tools. We started to developing training videos. And some of these folks were already doing this on their own. And we just found them, they joined us, and they were willing to help us move this along. Next. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. So we developed this training structure that we've been utilizing for all of our training that we do, whether we do it to the physicians groups, to other healthcare workers, or to patients. We partner with the Department of Public Health here in California, and we've been able to reach especially the rural doctors here in California. We've been able to do this in Maryland. We've been able to do this in Michigan. And this simple training structure in which we call it the 3-5-3 approach. The first 3 steps is to begin the conversation. The next 5 steps is to really get 5 key messages that we want to get across. And then the last 3 is to have 3 simple steps to make sure that you can connect with the individuals. So that way they know that you can be available. Next, the engagement part then was the next one. So we went digitally. We reached out to all of our digital platforms. We have Facebook pages, Twitter pages, Instagram pages, TikTok pages. We developed programs on Clubhouse and really bombarded all those areas to messaging, whatever the message was for the week. We try to do it once a week. Now, with our partnership with the Public Goods Project, our messages are getting out there 2-3 times a day to be able to provide evidence-based messaging to reach these individuals on a daily basis. And you can see some of this. We had a bunch of our physicians who actually do what we just heard about, the story of self, okay? We wanted to tell our story. Why was it important for us to get vaccinated? Why was it important for us to provide that information to everyone? So we had Instagram posts, we had Twitter posts, we had TikTok posts, we had this one. This is one of the best ones that I think we've done of why they needed to get vaccinated. And we got all these female healthcare physicians throughout the US to put this together, and we shared this consistently with our folks. And then we wanted to get the community involved. So we partnered with community groups, with CBOs in our local communities, California, Texas, Arizona, Michigan, Florida, New York, Maryland. I mean, pretty much all over, Nebraska, Iowa, and places that people they didn't think that they needed us. We were able to do that. We were also able to engage a lot of religious groups, a lot of religious organizations that look to us to provide them evidence-based information prior to their vaccine drives. And those were actually very successful. So what was our impact? Our impact today, you can see that we've been able to train significant amount of folks, advisors, organizational partners, digital and community events. We've done almost 500 at this point. We have trained over 4,000 individual healthcare workers throughout the US. On social media, actually now we have almost 10,000 followers. We have 25,000 digital activated heroes that have signed up for us, who get our messages on a daily basis, on a weekly basis.
Javier, I
yes.
think, Margie, did you just say time or 1 minute?
It's time out. I had
Okay. Well, you can see there, sorry. So you can see what our impact to date is. And I just wanted to share that because I think that was very important, and we can utilize this for our involvement with climate health.
Amazing. There's so many parallels to learn. And it's really inspiring to, to hear again, because I've heard about this some, but to hear what you did and how you responded. And I think we really want to learn from that model in climate. And that's what, one of the things that Climate Health Now really wants to do well, because we are, we didn't join other groups, like more general climate groups, because of that unique trust that you mentioned, like nurses, #1 most trusted people, then doctors, and often pharmacists. So that's really our unique tool to give to the climate movement. And the messaging, we got to do better, and your model is awesome. So thank you. And we're going to pass it to Dr. Abraham.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Ash?
yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Wonderful.
Can you hear
Okay.
me? Can you hear me?
All right, I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. Dr. McClure, let me know if there are any issues. So I don't really have a lot of slides. I really enjoyed hearing Dr. Sanchez and Dr. Kranz-Yoon, and I'll just picking up from that story of self, story of us, story of now. Really, my story starts with getting to know Dr. McClure and understanding her passion, her zeal for climate health, and seeing how much she wants to leave this planet in a better place for her children and future generations. And that really motivated me in figuring out how I can help support her and the work she's doing and championing and spearheading to advance the climate health agenda, particularly as it relates to organized medicine. And what we saw was a lot of process, a lot of barriers and protocols, if you will. And if we didn't do those things that way, those missteps would set us further back, even though the work may be important, the work is valued, we also still have to understand the culture. And so we really I saw this beautiful opportunity to partner with Dr. McClure and how can we navigate the rigorous structures, the powers that be, the infrastructure that exists in organized medicine to advance this work and this agenda. And that's really where the story of us comes in. And so together now we are championing climate health along with many others, including many on the call at the California Medical Association and at the American Medical Association, particularly helping prioritize climate health as a major topic for our next CMA House of Delegates. We're also working hard to help get the California Medical Association to prioritize climate health legislation and advocacy, particularly with our work on the Council on Legislation, and also for our work at the AMA, the American Medical Association, through the California Medical Association, advancing resolutions and policy within the organized medicine community, particularly at the AMA, so that we accomplish three goals. And those three are to declare climate a public health emergency crisis, to align our goals with other organizations and multinational agreements, accords like Paris, like what we saw out of Scotland, Glasgow meeting that just happened, COP26. And finally, for our AMA and for all of our organizations to really strategically prioritize a climate health agenda, including legislation, advocacy, education, and prioritizing our budgets and financing accordingly. So through that, we have come together. We work together in this Climate Health Fellowship, along with two of our budding climate activists and champions. They're MD, PhD medical students within the California Medical Association, student Dr. Sarah May Smith and student Dr. Meghana from San Diego, and they've been great. And so really, that's where we are now, is we're advancing this work, and we are asking each of you to join us in this work. We really want to recruit you, and we really want you to recruit others. And we're asking, can you bring some friends? Can you bring some colleagues along to the upcoming Climate Health Now May meetings? And we're hoping that each of you picks up and has one of these listening campaigns that people from the team are reaching out now. So please respond, please set up those meetings, have those one-on-ones. And eventually we hope that each of you will join us in joining our Speakers Bureau, being a part of the change, helping educate and mobilize our colleagues, our profession, our friends. And we hope that you'll be able to even give education, including grand rounds at some point in the future. So if you're willing to join us, please raise your hand now, and let's make that commitment together. And we look forward to hearing and seeing from each of you in May. With that, I turn it back over to Dr. McClure.
Ooh, yeah, thank you. Jerry has taught me a ton about AMA and CMA and how to navigate organized medicine, which is something we want to teach each other because can be very intimidating. The status quo is very strong. So building coalitions outside, outside of those groups in order to participate in those groups is something that we want to do. So thank you to each of you for contributing. And I think, just one more time visualizing that the climate movement needs more stories to personalize it and to help people feel called to participate. And that's really what the story of now is. It's taking this information and taking kind of the shared values that we have and acting to protect those values. So it's part of our work, and the messaging that Dr. Sanchez did with the COVID vaccine. We really like this year. Climate Health Now wants to really help create that same model for climate more effectively in California. So, and we're going to do it together. But before, I guess, let me go here. So maybe Amanda, if you want to, I think just mention this part about CHN Speaks, and then we'll go back to Jeff Mann about pitching it. Do you want to speak to this, Amanda?
Yeah. And thank you to everyone who's already spoken. That was really interesting. And Javier, I'm just like loaded with questions specifically to your group as well. I will follow up. But I think this is a good time to talk about CHN Speaks. So this was probably about a year ago, actually. If I have to look at my email, it may have even been farther back than that. There was discussion of really creating a speakers bureau within Climate Health Now, with the goal of getting basically the fundamental goal of how do we get more health professionals talking about climate health and equity in a professional setting. And I think for many of us, certainly there are institutions like, UCSF for sure comes to mind because of where I live and what I know that are already doing this in a really meaningful way. But I think when we think about how large our state is and how many smaller, regional hospitals and medical systems there are that have never, ever had a talk on climate and health, that it feels like a huge opportunity and a huge way that we could mobilize and contribute and bring more people into this movement. And so one of the ideas that came out of that early on was this idea of CHN Speaks, which would be to some extent a speakers bureau, where CHN members would have ways of, sharing slides, sharing best practices, sharing speaking opportunities, working together, figuring out where speaking opportunities are, how can we speak to acupuncturists, how can we, are there conferences that specifically people, how can we talk to allied health professionals? How can we work with groups that are already doing things like this to make, et cetera, et cetera. So we'd like to, if there is interest in this, which it seems like there is, we'd really, really like to have this be a foundational part of CHN. And we need people to make it happen. And to figure, so many of us have given talks, have slides, many of whom are on this call today, but we need to really get this off the ground. So if that calls to you, please let us know. And we're going to talk more about this. And Cindy, I see you're saying I'm not the best speaker. That's okay. You don't have to be the best speaker. We have nowhere to go. And your voice is needed, and we can make each other better. So we'll send out more information about this, but there's going to be 2 meetings specifically focused on CHN Speaks coming up in May. So if this speaks to you, please let us know and be on the lookout.
Yes, and I'm taking notes. So Amanda, can you help take notes? So Angelina, Brenda, and Cindy for the 6th. Yes, we would love to have you. Okay, awesome. So then thank you for that. We're going to go back to Dr. Jeff Mann, who has given awesome grand rounds and, can be somebody who helps all of us feel more confident. So passing it to you, Jeff.
All right, thanks. So I am Jeff Mann. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I work in Oakland and Berkeley. I'm going to really briefly give I'm Road to Climate Advocacy. So I have always loved the outdoors, spend as much time outdoors as I can. I thought I was a really good environmentalist. Thought I knew all the issues. And then I read this book called The Uninhabitable Earth. This is sort of one of those life-changing events. I didn't really realize how bad the crisis was until this book. And this showed what we're going to see in the future with different amounts of warming. And then I started to see those things happening sort of before my eyes, and I knew that I had to do more than just to drive an electric car and not eat red meat. It happened that was about the time that CHN started, and so that was very fortuitous, and I got involved with them. And one of the main things I've done has been giving grand rounds. So next slide, please. So why have I done this? Why do I think it's important? Well, I think many of our colleagues really don't know that much about the issue. We're busy, we're healthcare providers. We have a lot of things that we're doing. And so not everybody knows. And many of the people who do know are concerned, like I was, and then we need to make them active and more involved. So what did I do? So I signed up for grand rounds at our medical staff department. So, I would sometimes attend the grand rounds, but I certainly get the emails every week about the grand rounds that were going on. And I decided to do that for myself. And to prepare for this, I contacted some of the physicians in the area who I knew had given similar talks about climate, including Cynthia Mahoney, who's on this call, and several others, just to get some ideas, what worked, what didn't work, what topics to talk about, and those kind of things. And so the first grand rounds I gave was February 2021. That was to my hospital in Oakland, Summit Hospital. And since then, I've given about 10 talks to different medical staffs. Now, a lot of those were in the Sutter system. I figured that UCSF, they had a lot of physicians who are already speaking, same with Kaiser. So I kept it mainly to there, but I've been asked to a couple other hospital systems and to some other non-medical groups as well. So let's go to the next slide. So the main thing that I focus on, of course, is the impact of climate change on human health and what we are going to see as healthcare providers in our patients. Of course, I don't talk about every single one of these. I talk mainly about extreme heat, severe weather changes, and air pollution. So those sort of upper three right there. So that's sort of the beginning of the talk. And I used to focus on that almost exclusively, but then I've sort of have changed a little bit more. So let's go to the next slide. So, and I found it's really important to make it personal. Unfortunately, that's very easy here in California. Who has not been affected by wildfires or healthcare disruption near us? The hospitals in Santa Rosa have had to close a couple of times. Hospitals all over have to close. Our clinics, we've had blackouts. We've had to close our clinics. And as Dr. Sanchez said, we're healthcare providers. We are trusted messengers. And I emphasize that point. And I also, give examples of how we have advocated locally in our own communities. Probably many of you were involved with this, with the decreasing the particulate matter emissions at some of the local refineries here in the Bay Area. Many of our healthcare providers have given letters, have written letters to the editor on local climate issues. We have spoken with a lot of with the elected officials at all different levels. So I give sort of local issues that are going on, so that people can have something to think about locally. And this is a really important thing that I have come to also with the help of Amanda is a lot, and why climate solutions are health solutions. And, once I saw this, it became so clear, but before that, it wasn't as clear to me. Cleaner air, of course, that's better for our patients. I mean, we know know the literature, how bad air pollution is for our patients. all sorts of problems. But of course, it's, you know, important for our environment and for saving the earth as well. Cleaner energy, you know, not having fossil gas in our homes if at all possible, and the health effects of those, in a plant-based diet. So, and the climate solutions are health solutions. And also emphasizing that we actually have the solutions to all of these, and they're there for us. And then I emphasize ways to be involved locally. Of course, I speak a lot about climate health now, but there are other organizations as well, Physicians for Social Responsibility. Thank you, Margie. And also, if people want to be involved in environmental organizations that aren't necessarily health related, there's the chapters of 350 Bay Area around. Last slide. So what are the outcomes? Of course, it's been a little bit different because everything is remote. So I don't really get to speak to people face to face, but there is a lot of interaction, you know, and there's, you know, questions. And for the most part, the feedback has been very positive. Again, I've given the talks to physicians who I see very frequently, and they are all very grateful and they're very appreciative. I have a lot of good conversations, and people are concerned. And again, the focus and what I think is really important, and this is what I'm trying to bring to this, is how to make them active, not just concerned, but active. So I will stop there.
Awesome. I thank you so much. Like it's really cool because a lot of the themes that you've learned from doing lots of talks, I would say the same. And we really want to you know, share those with each other to bring each other up to speed. And the last part about, you know, this isn't just a typical grand rounds, like, let me teach you about stage 5 kidney disease. It's giving the information, but then inviting to take action together. And I think that's really what we what need to do, and what's different. And so that's why we want to learn together to do that super well. Because there's about 900,000 health professionals in California, and we only have 600 members. So we have a lot of growth to do. And it's inviting, you know, people to join us. So thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate your contribution. And we hope you'll consider sharing all that you've worked hard to learn with the, you know, hopefully not just interest group with Climate Health Now, but hopefully we'll build a team around the education, the messaging, the storytelling piece of it. So thank you. Great. And then.
Oh, actually, I see Javier's hand is up.
Yeah, go ahead, Javier.
You know, as we talked about grand rounds and reaching sort of more healthcare professionals, I just recently been appointed to the Southern California Permanente Family Medicine Symposium Committee. And so I'm really going to push for us to have a talk next November, because everything's already been set for this year. But really, I think it's important, and we're going to be reaching approximately almost 6,000 physicians that get invited to the symposium, and most of the talks are, you're talking about 500, between 200 and 500 physicians, and get them engaged. So I think that would be a good opportunity for us to bring this topic to them.
Awesome. Exactly. That's exactly what we want to do more and more of. So great idea. Let's plant the seed. And then, you know, just to kind of put a final touch on it, is at the end of our talks, and we'll talk about this more at the interest group meetings, and I see we got like 6 people who want to be a part of that, so wonderful. But really finishing our talks with a clear ask, like an invitation, whether it's join Climate Health Now or one of the PSRs, or like join a group to work more together. We're partial to Climate Health Now, of course, but any group, we just want people to be activated on climate. Or we could also invite people to, you know, recruit a colleague to Climate Health Now if they're already a member. And then really specifically, you know, kind of giving people opportunities how to act on what you've inspired in them. So got that. Okay. And then how are we doing? We have a couple minutes if there's any questions or comments or ideas that are coming up out of all these great contributions.
I see Roger and Jeff. Roger, you want to go?
Sure. Let me put my hand down there. So I think the challenge is to have people leave these sessions with some clear idea of what they can do, because I mean, we can present a lot of doom and gloom information. And I've been an environmental activist in my community for years. And one of the things we do is have a film festival, and a lot of those are, can be very depressing. And so that's what I've learned over the years is like, people really, okay, yeah, I get it. That, it's hitting the fan, what can I do? And so, as I said at the beginning, I'm moderating this panel at our National Urgent Care Convention in Las Vegas on May 3rd, and that's what I want your guys' input on. This will be not just medical professionals, I mean, not just doctors and mid-level practitioners, but also clinic owners and operators and administrative type people.
All sorts of ideas, Roger. We would love to talk with you. So I don't know, Amanda, do you want to put your email?
Behind the scenes, Roger and I have already been emailing.
Okay, good. It's in process. Perfect. Exactly. But couldn't agree more. Like, everybody needs, a lot more hope in this moment for many reasons. And that's what we need to frame it as, like, link arms with me. Let's kind of take action to protect everyone we love. And what we're trying to frame is like create those opportunities for people to take action together, because that's what community organizing is all about. Awesome. One more question, maybe?
I saw Jeff's hand. Oh, yeah.
Roger, in response to, I probably didn't convey it well enough, but when I first started talking, I think I did focus a little bit too much on all the bad things that we're going to see. And now it's more, what are the solutions? And we have the solutions, and really trying to focus on that. And speaking of which, Amanda and I are giving a talk next week for Earth Day. I hope you were going to mention that. So anyways, next win. Okay. All right. So I'll let you announce it then.
I was just going to say one other thing, actually, just in the minute left too, that another thing that I would be so curious to get help on. This came up a bit. I know a bunch of us were on the consortium's annual meeting talking about basically messaging, not specifically public facing talks, but sort of messaging in general, is how to handle how to handle negative questions, people who really are sort of derailed, all of these things that come up when you're actually talking or trying to deliver a message. So that's something else. If people are interested in talking more about that, I would love that, because I'm starting to experience a lot more of that as well.
Yeah, like, let's just talk about how lithium batteries are causing problems. Yeah, reframing. And that's all the messaging. So that's what the interest group meetings, for hopefully the team that comes out of that is the messaging and how to really effectively talk, whether it's to colleagues who kind of go down rabbit holes or the media. And we need to get really excellent at responding to that. So wonderful. Margie, do you want to talk about the listening campaign?
Okay, great. So hopefully by now everybody has received an invitation from a listening campaign member asking you to join us on a one-on-one conversation. And we would like to talk to you about why you joined CHN. Why is this climate struggle important to you? What inspires you to this work, and what we can do together to make this planet a safer, healthier, and more sustainable place for our patients and for our loved ones. So you will be getting an invitation, and you hopefully can make an appointment on the Calendly app and set up a time. It's probably about 20 minutes to talk to one of us. And it's been really fun. I've been doing this membership outreach for a while, and I found these conversations to be so inspiring and so enriching, personally for me. Our members are passionate, and they're caring, and they're concerned. And I've met incredible people doing incredible things. And as we heard from this meeting today, people are doing incredible things, and it's great to learn about them. And we want to gather all that energy and all that innovation to work together. to find climate solutions. So please join us on these one-on-one conversations. We want to learn about you, and we want to reach out and have these conversations and build this community of health providers to support and inspire each other. So we are stronger together. So please answer our call.
Exactly. So one of these awesome 9 folks, Margie being one of them, and Angelina and others, they may have already emailed you, or the email might be coming like this or next week to invite you for this one-on-one meeting. So this couldn't be more important, because what we learn from these 20-minute conversations in a one-on-one style with you is going to inform the strategic plan for Climate Health Now. So what we need to hear what you want to work on, because that's what we will orient around. So it will be fun for sure, and definitely just look out for those emails, or maybe search backwards for if you got an invitation recently. And if you need another invitation, put it in the chat, and we'll help connect you to your listening campaign team member. So thank you, Margie. Great. And then the Voting for Climate and Health team has a 2-minute update.
Right. Thank you all. Well, I feel like this whole meeting was a great prelude to my presentation. Thank you all very much. Speaking of taking action together. So we're excited to tell you about the voting team's 2022 project, which is a collaboration with a group called Vote ER. And first, I want to explain why this is important, especially in this Earth Week and after the IPCC report said we don't have time. So it may not be obvious at first, but the connection between voting and climate health is critical. There was a session at the recent Medical Society Consortium meeting called Optimizing and Accelerating the Power of Health Professionals. And they asked the question on the slide, what would it take for the healthcare community to dramatically accelerate adoption of equitable climate and health solutions in the next year? And the unequivocal answer, vote. Why? Because the people we elect determine the conditions for our health, whether we have clean air to breathe and a safe climate to live in. And that's why ensuring that every voice is heard in free and fair elections is fundamental to our mission for climate health and equity. Health providers have a unique trusted voice and a unique connection to the most environmentally impacted communities, where voting can change the conditions of their health. Next, please. So you'll see here that there's a big overlap between unregistered eligible voters in blue, the most marginalized health impacted communities in pink, and those often are young people, poor people, and people of color whose only interaction with the healthcare system might be ERs, urgent care centers, community health clinics. And there's also an important role in pediatrics. So we are emphasizing collective action. Some of you may have worked with Vote ER previously, where you had your individual lanyard, but we're all going to this collective action, and Vote ER this year is really focusing on institutionalizing what we're doing. And so that's the why, the where, and the how. The who, we hope, is going to be you. We're trying to identify champions within each facility. Could be physicians, nurses, social workers, med students, even administrators, to get this going. Next slide, please. So we hope you'll join us for our kickoff Action R, because we want to take action, called What Does Democracy Have to Do with It? Connecting Climate Action to Healthcare-Based Voter Empowerment. That's going to be 1 week from now, April 20th, 45 minutes. So you have a bio break before your next patient. We'll have guest speakers from Alta Med and UCSF Children's Hospital, and an Action Hour. So we'll be sending out invitations. Please watch for the notice.
Thank you for the update, Cynthia. And we will send that out to as a reminder for next week. So, and then it's kind of something new we're trying to do, but we're trying to resource Climate Health Now to be more effective, which priority number 1 is this year, we are hoping to hire a staff member who could help coordinate our members. We have like 600 now, but we really need to do that. So we welcome donations, because Climate Health Now is a 501c3, and so you can deduct it from the taxes you probably just paid. I think they're due now, but we do need to fundraise in order to be more effective and to grow as powerful as we think we can be, to give the Western States Petroleum Association and Chevron a run for their money. So we welcome that. If you know of foundations or grants that you think might be relevant for our work, we are trying to fundraise. And next month, May, is going to be our first ever member donation, what is it called? Donation drive. So we're hoping that all of our members can contribute and participate, not necessarily a certain dollar amount, but just participating to show when we apply for grants that we have support from our members. So putting that out there. And then Amanda, if you can take it away on the save the dates, and then we'll close up.
Okay, yeah, we're already a minute over. I'll go very fast, and we will send out all of these links as well. So Jeff mentioned he and I are next week, a week from today at noon, are giving a virtual grand rounds for all of Sutter, which is pretty exciting, called The Case for Health Professional Involvement in Climate Advocacy. So we'll send out the link to that if you're free. Jeff and I can also tell you a wild story about what it took to get Sutter to allow us to say the word fossil fuels in our talk. So that gives you a sense of where we're coming from. There's the Action R that Cynthia mentioned. What does democracy have to do with it? Connecting climate action to healthcare-based voter empowerment. Also at next week at 12:30, and then I'll send out a few other upcoming events of interest. On the 27th, we're actually a sponsor of an event being held by SFA PSR on building electrification that is building on some of the work we did for the amicus brief earlier this year about the lawsuit in Berkeley regarding banning natural gas hookups. Alrighty, I think we'll leave it at that. Our next monthly meeting is the 18th, at 12:30 to 1:30. Oh, and Cindy, are you saying, how do you get on the list for a recording of the Sutter Grand Rounds?
Yeah, because I have a work meeting at that time, but I really want to hear it.
I don't know that, but I think we will get a recording and share it out as well. We can definitely do that. But I think if you register for it, they'll probably send you the recording if you miss it.
Are you allowed to register if you're not a part of Sutter?
I believe so. Jeff, I don't know if Jeff is still on. I think so, because they're asking us to promote it. So that leads me to believe yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe, maybe you could remember to share it with her. Do you think, Amanda?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll share it out for sure. I'll also clarify that with them, Cindy, to make sure.
If there is an invite link, I'd love to be included. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome.
So that's all we had. If you want to share any thoughts in the chat or out loud about what went well for this community meeting, what could have gone better, and then any key messages, but we really take your feedback to heart in how we do the meeting. So we do welcome that and appreciate you joining. And please, we'll follow up with folks who want to do the interest group for the education and storytelling, the tons of great upcoming events. We'll share that out in an email, and really appreciate you all joining. Excited to work more together.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.